many ex-Sun folks are in the room?
Wow. Yes.
I owe all of you thanks. I wouldn't be here speaking to you if it wasn't for you. So it's good to see you all. Hopefully I get a chance to say hi after we're done. But the Sun Mafia is deep and strong in this valley. I appreciate all that you did for me and for the industry. I have to tell a little story. Facebook moved into our old headquarters in Menlo Park, and I was listening to you talk about how critical what you all do is, and let me tell you, there's nobody who understands. I mean, the people who start with sand and create electrons out on that's where it's all happening. And you know, I've watched the valley evolve from Fairchild Semi and National Semi and all the rest of it into HP and all of the Seagates, and then it evolved into the systems companies with Apple and Sun and all the rest of it, and then it evolved into the middleware software companies and operating system companies, and then we ended up doing toothpaste.com and Like a Picture. And you know, I sort of pine for the old days when we actually did stuff. I went over to go see Zuck, and they'd torn out all the walls and the flooring and the ceiling, and it was all open space. And I said, you ought to go up into my office, the one looking out over the freeway, the one with bulletproof glass on the windows post 9/11, because I was on the list to be killed by the bad guys. And he looked at me like I was crazy. But then a couple of months later, I was reading that the little etched Sun Microsystems emblems were still on the windows and on the back of the sign right out there. If you go look and turn around, it'll have a Sun logo on it. And Zuck explains to his employees, we leave that there to remind you that things can go bad and wrong and you can lose it. You couldn't like anything without all the technology that we developed at Sun Microsystems. So please be that unsuccessful. That was just a little. I like Zuck. He's learning. I'm sure he enjoyed last week.
Yeah. For sure.
All right, sorry, go ahead. I interrupted.
Yeah. They said you were an introvert that became an extrovert. I don't believe it, but
that's true.
So, most important question: this beard thing, is that
Sharks.
okay?
Sweep, Anaheim, Ducks suck. I had 4 boys who were junior Sharks hockey players, and I'm a pretty big hockey nut, so it was fun last night to see dirty, slow, and dumb lose to fast, smart, and classy. The Sharks. You have to be a hockey fan to understand that. You guys, none of you should be hockey fans because you're working on too critical of.
Go Sharks.
Yeah.
Like
But anyhow, you grow a beard. You don't cut your beard until the playoff is over for your team. So hopefully the next 8 weeks this will get really ugly.
As long as Joe.
I sort of look like Tom Lyon. There is you got to tell me who does it better, me or Tom Lyon.
So why don't we start on
Employee number 6,
Eight.
8 at Sun Microsystems, just so you know. Sorry.
So no worries. Why don't you
Ask
tell
me a question?
Sorry. Tell me what you're working on lately. So, I heard you retired. No.
Well, as I tell my kids, to those who much is given, much is expected, and you know I was given much, and so my give back has been Curriki, CURRIKI.org, and we started it at Sun. If you remember in the old days, there was actually a leader of the open source movement. It wasn't Al Gore. It was actually Sun Microsystems, and you know we were a top 40 R&D spender, all industries, telecommunications, pharmaceuticals, whatever. Technology. And I would say, Tom, we probably open source 60 to 80% of our IP at a minimum, counting all the microprocessors, the operating systems, the UI, Genie and Java and all of the other things that we did. And unfortunately, Oracle bought us, and Larry missed the sharing class in high school. But anyhow, while we were on this rage of sharing with the rest of the world, I was sitting down with Kim Jones, and she ran our education business, $1 billion education business, and I was complaining about the $130 math textbooks for my children, third grade math textbooks, like 10 plus 10 was, is, and will be 20, and they're hauling a backpack and a roller suitcase, and I'm thinking, we're in the digital information age, and so I did a little research. We spend $8 to $15 billion a year annually, once a year, every year on K through 12 educational materials. So I said, why don't we just create an open source community like the Java community? And so we've created Curriki. It's the largest online repository for free and open source K through 12 educational materials, 250, 60,000 learning assets, all the Khan videos, worksheets, science projects. It's heavily STEM. It's about 70% STEM. And it's all free. It's all been funded by me and friends of Scott. And corporations like NASCAR and AT&T and IBM and Oracle and other wonderful companies who've helped us. So I'm spending a lot of time on that. If you all can evangelize. Ultimately, I want to take this Lego bucket of 260,000 Lego pieces and assemble Legoland, a free online open source web-enabled real-time scored multimedia internationalized localized K through 12 experience for every parent, teacher, or child, not to be held back. So that's my give back, and I'm working hard on that. I made a mistake of becoming chairman of a startup in Denver that is a marketing tech company, and I got all the friends of Scott to invest in it. Don't do that, because then you're forever committed to making sure there's a payback to your friends. Find some investor you don't like and take their money. And if you lose it, no biggie. But anyhow, we're changing advertising, and we're actually bringing IT, engineering, data scale, privacy, scalability, all the abilities to advertising, because everybody
$1 trillion market.
Oh yeah, everybody today gets the purple mohawk guy with the stuff sticking out of body parts and stuff like that, and they create this new campaign. They go and hire somebody to invent it, and then they throw it at the IT department and say, "All right, run this," and they don't worry about GDPR or scalability or any of the issues that you all have to deal with in the IT space, and then they throw it away at the end. So we've created an Apple iTunes-like store for digital experience campaigns. That actually, rather than just shoot a 30-second Roman Polanski movie at you, which is what ad agencies do, and nobody wants to see it, nobody wants to do it. It's interesting, this is an interesting stat, the first digital ad as we move from TV, print, billboards, and naming rights to digital ads, AT&T had a I think it was 43% click-through rate on the first digital ad. Then we threw all these analytics and big data centers and all this targeting at it. The click-through rate has plummeted to less than 1%, and half of those are accidental. You know how they move the button just as they see your finger coming, and you go, how did I hit on that? Where's the little X? And the X is high. And so what we've done is we've said everybody has a keyboard, a touchscreen, a microphone, and a camera to be able to talk back to the brand. So all of our experiences assume you want to actually engage with and communicate with the brand, and that allows you to collect first-party data, not third-party data, like Cambridge Analytics. And so you have an explicit conversation, an explicit exchange of data, and we actually usually encourage our customers to give something in return. HGTV runs a sweepstakes using our technology, and they get 130 million first-party data records in 6 weeks, because people will tell you anything if you offer a potential to win a free house. But at least there's a value exchange, and it's an explicit conversation. So anyhow, we're going to change advertising with Weigh-In, and then I'm advising probably 50 or 60, or it's just one a week coming in. People. I just work for stock and advise. DriveScale is one that I'm very, very excited about. A bunch of Sun alum, and Gene Bandman is the CEO, and there's a whole bunch of. How many DriveScale folks in the room here? Most of them are ex-Sun folks, and So there's lots of little companies like that from AT&T. I'm on the tech advisor. So it all keeps me busy, and then I'm caddying on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 2 different sons. So that's what I'm doing.
Wait, so your son is now a pro golfer, right?
But these are my
Maverick?
These are my younger sons. Yeah, Maverick's down on the web.com.
That was this year, right?
He's playing right now down in Mississippi, and he's
Congratulations.
1 over after 9 holes. So
Nice.
he's in 98th or no 75th or something. So he's right on the cut line. So he's got to get his butt in gear. No dinner if you don't. It's so funny. I mean, we kicked him out. We said, when you graduate, we'll pay till you graduate. And he called me and said, Dad, I can make breakfast for $3 at home. So he won't even go to McDonald's because it's more expensive than making it. I don't know where I got the chief executive officer.
I'm actually going to put a quote out that you said about weigh-in because I think it's important about my next question. So you said it's going to be controversial, but as I always say about controversial strategies, if you don't have one, you have no chance. If it's not controversial, everybody does it. If everybody does it, there's no differentiation. If there's no differentiation, no pricing power. No pricing power, no profits, no business. The problem is you have to be controversial and correct.
Correct's the hard part.
So, what advice would you give to this room to be both controversial and correct?
Well, I was correct because I hooked up with 3 of the smartest people I've ever met in my life: Vinod Khosla, Andy Bechtolsheim, and Bill Joy. And so you don't have to be correct. Just surround yourself with really super smart people who are not. And that's probably the easiest way to go do that. Or be Steve Jobs. Right? He's rare. I mean, like, he's GOAT, right? Greatest of all time in terms of any. He and Andy Bechtolsheim, Andy on the commercial side, and nobody talks about Andy, but Andy is clearly, there more electrons have run through Andy's products than anybody's in the world, probably by 20 orders of magnitude, with all the stuff that he did at Sun and Arista, and I can't remember all the other ones, Granite and all the rest of them that he did. So being right sometimes means being lucky, but being lucky is where hard work and preparation meet, and every now and then it happens. There was a great book a long time ago written called Accidental Empires about the Silicon Valley. I never read it because I totally agreed with, I didn't need to be convinced because, you go ask Bill Gates to go do it again, not going to get it done, right? If you'd asked, I'm trying to remember the DEC founder, what was his name?
Ken Olsen.
Ken Olsen.
Ken Olsen
To do it again. He wouldn't have been able to do it again. It's very, very hard to recreate the lightning in a bottle that happens. When the 4 founders at Sun met, it was just the right time. We had all the right skill sets to back each other and all the rest of it. And so you just got to try because you never know. I think it was Wayne Gretzky said, 100% of shots not taken don't go in. So you've got to give it a try, go for it. And I always tell people, use other people's money. Don't use your own, don't put your own, and everybody says it's so risky. Well, you know what? If Sun had failed after 1 year, no big deal. It was later on when we were all over everything that if I screwed up, that was risky. People's lives got affected, and I got plastered all over the places. Look at that idiot. He was wrong, right? That's when it gets risky, is when you've actually gotten successful. So don't worry about the risk until you've gotten successful. Then you're dealing with a lot of shareholders' value, a lot of retired folks, nest eggs, and people's lives, and all the rest of it. So and a lot of you all have far riskier jobs than a startup does, because if you mess up, stuff happens. I remember when we shipped some eBay servers to eBay and they didn't work, and there were CNN helicopters flying over, and I'm walking in the front door with my jacket pulled over my head like this, and I sit down with Meg and I go, "Oh, what do we got to do here?" And it was on the news that eBay, couldn't trade whatever Beanie Babies. So you guys are dealing with probably a lot more critical stuff than that. I know the Uber folks are in here. That'll created a huge problem. Yeah.
Yes.
If Uber goes down, right? So
Yeah, we'll just make sure that doesn't happen.
yeah, right.
By the way, that eBay story, I remember I was in an all-hands meeting with Ann Shilley, and that's when the call came in that the things went down.
Yeah.
Right. So I spent 6 plus years at eBay as well after Sun.
Very
So yeah, interesting ties. But and I don't think the irony is lost on anyone here. You realize we're at Microsoft right now, right?
You realize the irony that a good friend of mine, Satya, is ex-Sun and is running Microsoft. He knows how much better they're doing and how much more open, how much more they're collaborating. And I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. He was well trained.
Perfect. So let's go back to the past a little bit.
Who's tweeting all this out here? just don't get me in trouble.
You get yourself in trouble. It's all right. So
You have no privacy. Get over it. Who said that?
I don't know.
We'll get to that later.
So the network is a computer. Okay, so this is coined by Sun back in 1984. Yeah, I heard it might work.
Sorry.
34 years later, here we sit, right? And it's more relevant than it ever was.
Yeah, we should have just called it cloud. Think of all the ink we could have saved. Yeah.
So whether it's cloud, whether it's think about thin versus fat computing.
Right.
I mean, just give us your perspective today. Oh, Sunray, right? I mean, there's just so many pieces that fit here.
I think we've moved a lot to the cloud, and I really just think about it as thick or thin, and how thick is your client, and we're still in one way the browser is the ultimate thin client. And then I've always called it the thinnest of all clients, because all it does is take you to the browser doesn't do anything. It just takes you to the server somewhere out in the cloud that has all the data and interactivity, and Java brought interactivity to it. And that's the ultimate thin client. And it is unimaginable to me how big a beast we carry around with ourselves just to be able to run a browser. But we just don't change, and there's so much built into the model that we still carry around. I mean, you think about your iPad or your iPhone, how powerful that is compared to what we started with in the first Netscape Java browser went out there. And I don't know that we'll ever change. It's unfortunate. But everything else is a utility, except we have to carry our own little generator and battery pack and our own little operating system, our own little microprocessor, and our own little system management system. And you look at settings and all the rest. It's stunning. My poor mom, she calls me before every one of Maverick's tournaments and said, Will you put the scores on my iPad? That's how she calls it. She has no concept of what a link is, Just would you put it on my iPad? Okay, Mom, I'll throw it on there, But so and then there's the edge computing conversation, all the rest of it. And everybody says, everything's going to move to no, it's not all going to move to the cloud. There's reasons, I think, for having local state and local data. I'm still trying to understand what those reasons are anymore. But, we're just going to have that. There's certainly legal reasons for having a private cloud for those of you who work in financial industry or in the intelligence community or all the rest of it. They don't want firewalls. They want air gaps, and they want lead walls and other things like that that change. I remember we were trying to put servers in a data center for a financial service, and they said we had to put chain link fence with barbed wire around the servers. No, there's wires coming through, but they wanted whatever. So, there will always be reasons for compartmentalization, and I think compartmentalization is one very important security model that will always go away. Security through massive dispersion is important. But I honestly believe we would all be better off with the Sunray model. And when Oracle bought us, I sat down with Larry, I said, You got it. But I would love the open look Star Office Sunray technology, and you can do like you did with NetSuite. You can have 20% of the company, get us started, and I was going to go off and do the thin client specifically, and only that was the only thing that would have brought me back out of retirement, was to go really drive that thin client model. He said no, because he makes all his money on the fat client model. He was a smart guy. He's no dummy. I was a good capitalist. He's a great capitalist. And so that model has never happened. So everything's still moving to the cloud in the utility model, but there's still going to be private clouds for lots of good reasons, and there's still going to be fat clients for probably no good reason, other than we have. Try switching off of your iPhone and go to Android, or try to go from Android to your iPhone. Try to go from Facebook to anything. It's just, they've all learned the barrier to exit is the, and this is why Sun's probably no longer here, because we always said the barrier to exit is a bad thing for you, and so we're going to give you all of the instructions on how to leave us. It's called source code. It's called open source. And I always thought that the customer would be smart enough to say, I'm not going to, sit down on that bear trap. But no, they're all out there in the woods kneeling down over the bear trap, happily setting it off, and then hollering when they have to buy a new phone because Apple releases a version that makes the old phone go slower. It's fascinating to me, and I think most of you have figured out how to try to decouple. So drive scale decouples the storage from the compute. Linux gives you freedom of choice, not freedom from choice, and you learn to use APIs and all the rest of it a lot more, because getting stuck with that old proprietary Frankenstein of 17 different body parts in your data center is just not an acceptable model anymore. But and you probably have purchasing power that most normal people don't have. I mean, like when Uber says, I want it like this, or when Google says, I want it like this, you're going to get it. When a consumer says, I want it open, the retailer says, this is all we got. So it's
so from the cloud standpoint, I don't think it's an or. In the end of it,
we're still doing mainframe. Right, it's all of the above. Every time something new gets invented, it just gets added to the portfolio. It doesn't seem like anything ever really dies. I'm sure there's a lot of, I haven't checked, but I'm sure there's a lot of mainframes still in operation. Somebody just told me they turned on their 14-year-old Sunblade last week, and it worked.
They still have it?
Yeah.
Wow. Does anybody have the Java Ring?
I don't wear it.
Okay, all right.
I don't wear it.
Wearable devices. So think about it this way. We've got things that were supposed to migrate to the cloud that was supposed to kill the data center. It has to go somewhere. And then let's talk about edge.
Well, the data center the cloud is a data center. And
exactly. It doesn't go in the ether. It doesn't just disappear.
Right, yeah. So it's just another name for the, we should have called our stuff the cloud station instead of the big friggin' webtone switch is what I used to call it. But
cloud was coined in 1996 from somebody over Compact, and they proved it with a paper. They actually found the original thing, but it didn't really catch on until '99. And then you think about the major cloud providers today; they are driving the industry from a expansion standpoint at just incredible volumes. Yeah. When you're doing 40 megawatts a month.
So it depends what you mean by a cloud, though. I mean, Uber is a logistics cloud that's available to anybody who wants to download their app. Is that a cloud, or is only AWS a cloud? Because they, it's all semantics.
Yeah.
Everything should be on the utility.
So I want to go back to the statement you made. Let me make it perfectly clear.
Why do we have to bring up all this old stuff I said?
Because this is just too fun. So you have zero privacy anyway. Get over it. Okay, so you made that in 1999, that statement, and caused a little bit of a ripple. I bet you had some fun responding back to that one, but It is stuck. So can you tell us, with all of this Cambridge Analytica and the Facebook pieces of it, Where do you stand today on the privacy piece? What do you tell your kids?
Well, what I tell my kids is everything that they do is a digital tattoo. And I'm not talking about just the pictures they upload or the keyboard strokes or whatever. It's what all their buddies do who are all taking pictures and videoing and tweeting as you talk about what you're saying and all the rest of it. It all becomes a digital. And a lot of the tattoos are not necessarily accurate or whatever, or out of context or whatever. So just deal with that. So rather than piling on to what is going to happen to you, just be careful what you input directly. And to think that anybody, I love these people asking for, these politicians asking for a way to be forgotten. Yeah. It's like my mom driving privacy strategy, you know. Take it off my iPad, right? Yeah, okay, Mom. Then it'll be gone forever. Poof, the Wayback Machine doesn't exist. Nobody's got a copy. Oh, but I got Snapchat. It disappears after 8 seconds. Unless somebody takes a picture of your screen and then, right? Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
And now they have persistent storage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So let's double click a little on that. So machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning.
Oh my God, we're all going to lose our job, aren't we?
So let's talk about what that actually means, because there's the future, deep future, that we are thinking about, but really, what does this mean in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I don't know. I don't really totally understand machine learning. My freshman at Stanford was trying to explain it to me, and I did the grammar thing. Well, just put the AI on my iPad, please, son. But the way I understand it, it's if-then. Right? You know, it's just if-then on steroids. And he said, yeah, but you got to add neural networks, Dad. Okay, cool. I get it now. So what will this do? It's going to automate things. I'm going over to see H2O.ai at 3:30 this afternoon to hear what they all have to say. And next Monday, I'm going to go see this bot automation, serviceautomation.com company that is doing stuff that takes these bots all run around there. They call it the technical service team. And, you know, all of this is supposedly going to take a lot of jobs out. Well, what's the number one job title in America today? Anybody know? Truck driver. Right? And when Uber meets driverless car, taxi driver, car driver, Uber driver, all of those jobs go away, but that's going to be a better world. Now, so we think, oh my gosh, here it comes. We are going to run out of jobs. It isn't going to happen, folks. First of all, healthcare worker is going to skyrocket as a job title. Just no question. Second of all, and I was there in Vegas at the 30th floor watching the whole scene of the shooter, and I came back to the Mandalay Bay a couple months later, and I would guess that for every 3 guests in the Mandalay Bay, there was a security guard. Most of them are plain clothes now, too. So, I mean, you're getting watched everywhere, and if you look in the ceiling, there's all of these cameras. But security guard is going to be an enormous new, and then cybersecurity guards. Cybersecurity is going to be another sky. But those are just 3 that are so obvious and are going to grow. There's going to be a dislocation, and the problem is the education system, and this is why I want to make curricula self-paced on demand. I guarantee you everybody in this room would have passed high school by 13 had you had a full self-paced on demand, accredited, real-time scored K through 12 educational system available to you on an iPad when you were young. By 13, you'd have been done. And think about all of the energy and passion and hormones that you had back then that could have been used to the good, as opposed to going to college for 4 years and getting drunk and learning how to procreate and tailgate and all of the stuff that, I mean, there's a reason I'm here talking to you when Gates, Ballmer, Zuckerberg, Ellison, all these folks all dropped out. I finished my degree. The opportunity cost of humans from 15 to 25 not working is one of the great modern tragedies that nobody talks about. Everybody says, but it was fun. Yeah, I get that. But to those whom much is given, and everybody in this room is in that category, much is expected, and there was that opportunity cost. Ask anybody who graduated from college and say, how much did you learn in the first 6 months of your job versus the 4 years of college? Just do a little empirical evidence on that and ask people what they learned and how much they use from college. Now, in the technical arena, I agree, there are some really good things happening. And I'm glad I told my sons, you can go to college only if you get a STEM degree. Only. Everything else you can learn online. But even now, think about how much, most of my kids' classes at Stanford now, they watch videoed. So what's the point? And office hours can be done FaceTime. So why do we? It's a football team with a library attached. And nobody goes to the library anymore. So it's really fascinating. So is AI are we going to have machines smarter than humans? They already are. And how do you define smarter? I mean, they can calculate faster, they can remember more stuff, they can search and sort, and they can, so we already have AI. Tom, we talked about AI with symbolics back in 1982 when we started Sun, and everybody back then was talking about how, with Moore's Law and all the rest of it, we were going to be absolutely obsolete. Well, how come I'm not talking to a bunch of computers in here right now? That's been going on since the wheel and fire were invented. So I'm not poo-pooing it. Even Bill Joy wrote an article about how we were all going to die because nano was going to meet this, was going to meet that. So far, we've avoided the comet hitting the Pacific Ocean, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think in the end of this, the disruption that comes from these things is going to now open up new opportunities of new jobs and new things that happen because we still need the people doing the things. It's just the jobs are going to change over time. So AI is just going to make us smarter, make the overall collective smarter. You were talking about education and how you wish that 15 to 25, that time frame, if those people were to go in and learn outside of school, they would learn faster, learn more, and be more relevant. So, personal story, I started at Sun on my 21st birthday, literally, right? And I went
Alan, where are you? What day? How old were you when you started at Sun?
18.
18.
I was youngest employee ever at Sun.
Youngest employee.
The youngest employee we would admit that we were employed. There were child labor laws back then too.
You never admitted me either.
So I went to a trade school. I went to DeVry. I got an associate's degree in electronics, and Sun hired half my graduating class out of Phoenix. And I moved to California. I had no idea what the Silicon Valley was. I didn't know what Sun was. I had no idea about Unix, zero. And so I walked in and learned everything about, I think, my technical capabilities, my strategic business elements, financial, all that, at Sun. And that is a big thing. I believe that I went to the University of Sun. And I credit you guys and a lot of people in this room.
Well, let me talk about universities a little bit, because now all 4 of my sons are in. My 4th one is going to go to Baylor and play golf. But he's going to get a technical degree. My older, who is a pro golfer, has a management science and engineering and big data science degree from Stanford. So I said, all right, now you can go play golf. Whatever. Do you know why we have SAT tests for colleges? There's a law in the United States that you can't give IQ tests to potential employees. That came in about 50, 60 years ago because for some reason we didn't want employers to know who was smart and who wasn't because that's just not relevant and it's not fair. So universities are not held to that same standard, so they give out SAT and ACT tests, which are IQ tests. Not scholastic achievement, they are IQ tests. And then the school's all stratified by SAT scores, and you can go look up any school and see what the band and average SAT scores are. So I told all my boys, I said, just get into Stanford. And then show them your high school transcripts, although you can never run for office if you do that. Then give your high school transcripts and your admission letter to Stanford and show them your IQ test scores, and then go to work. They said, well, nobody will hire me. I said, just show them, because there's not one university that has ever promised to raise your IQ. Sure. Have you ever seen that in the commitment letter? So you pay me $75,000 after tax per year for 4 years, and you'll be smarter? No. You may be more experienced in some interesting ways, but you will not be smarter. In fact, with all the alcohol, you probably dumbed yourself down. So you are a classic example. Larry Ellison, dropout. Bill Gates, dropout. Steve Ballmer, dropout. All these, Zuck, dropout.
I actually completed, just so you know.
Did you? Right. Yeah. Okay. Good for you.
Thank you.
So anyhow, that's enough of that hobby horse.
So I want to, again, double click on this, because you have a quote saying that get the best people and train them. Simple, right? And I want to highlight a few things. So there are people in here that started as interns at Sun. Anoop, raise your hand. Right? An intern, right? And then on top of this, Alan, 22 years. Tony West, you in here somewhere? So, yep, 22 years as well. Raju, Joshi? Raju, 21 years. David Yen, yep, 20 years. Brian Bowles, 19. So I looked through this. Carl Meske, Colin. This group of people, and it's only a small sample of it, if you start to look at how the influence in, I think, what happened in the culture at Sun, and I'm touting this because I lived it, and I left and went to another company, and I came back to it because I love the culture, and I love the innovation, and I love the pace, I love the things that happen there. And so it was unique. But what advice can you give to this room where we've got different generations of talent coming in? How do we develop this talent base? How do we mirror, replicate what I thought was very magical at Sun?
Well, I'll tell you what we used to tell the Sun employees, and that is there's approximately a 20% skills obsolescence per year and every year. And I don't know whether that's the right number. I made that up. It was just kind of, I sort of looked and saw, we bought a surface mount technology machine, and 5 years later, we went to stick them on, or however they went to. I just saw stuff just like evaporate in 5 years, and it just seems like 20%. So I said it is 51% the employee's responsibility to stay skills current, 49% the company's. We need to provide the opportunity, the flexibility, the freedom, and I think Eric Schmidt took that to Google, and he said, you got Fridays to do your own deal, right? As part of that's exactly 20%, right? 1 out of 5 days, and you go get yourself skills current or work on what you want to learn, what you need to do. And I think you need to put that on the employees in your organization, on your staff or whatever, and say, hey, listen, if you don't do anything to get smarter over the next 5 years, when it comes time to pick who goes, you're going to be the first one to walk the plank. So you'd better keep yourself skills current. From a culture perspective, to make it, when people want to stay there, the most important thing that I tried to do every day in every meeting was say, if you were CEO, what would you do differently than what I'm doing? What would you do more of? What would you do less of? From your perspective, tell me, what would you do differently? And just asking that question is totally disarming. It puts you in a peer-to-peer relationship. It tells the folks that you're interested in what they have to say. It gives them a voice. It makes them more loyal, more committed. And you have to be good about not saying, that's crazy. And you explain, well, here's some of the challenges with that particular perspective, but have that little conversation in doing that. And most of the time, I wouldn't even say, if you were CEO, I would say, you are CEO of this decision. David Yen, you decide what the architecture is going to be on the Spark chip, because I'm not going to do that. And so I often would actually assign the CEO responsibility for that particular decision. And moving that down forced everybody to be on their toes, that they might get delegated, they'd better be aware, they'd better be up to speed, they better be educated and wise on those particular topics. And then I used to go in and tell the engineering teams, David will remember me coming into his town halls, and they would be doing the chip for the next generation, and I would say, listen, I've gotten several proposals to do some other different chip to compete with you inside the organization, and I say no every time. We're riding your horse. If you fail, we're going to lose a lot of jobs inside this company, and we're going to lose a lot of market value. So you better not fail. Let me know what you need, but you better deliver on time, and then I'd walk out. And there's not an engineer worth their salt who doesn't love that pressure.
Yep.
They want that pressure. The last thing they want to do is be competing against the other guys who are competing for the same engineers, the same resources, the same time on the simulation machines or anything like that. And you develop, it's just lots of little things like that that keep people motivated and excited, and they seem sort of obvious, but I just find it fascinating how few people actually do the blatantly obvious. The good thing about me is I had an inferiority complex. I was a golf major who minored in economics from Harvard, and I didn't really know. I went to Mission College. My third job out of college, I went to work at Onyx, which was the first company to put Unix on a microprocessor, and I was manufacturing manager. I didn't know what a disk drive did. I didn't know what this. So I went over to Mission College and I started taking AC and DC theory. I was the only kid in the class who spoke English as a first language, and I started learning. And I just, like you, nothing I learned at Harvard, nothing that I learned at Harvard did I ever use again.
Wow.
I guess I was a better writer than most people, but that was about all I got. And I didn't learn speaking skills. You may think I'm like good at this or not, but when I became CEO 2 years after the Asvinode stepped down, and they put me in temporarily, and I gave the first shareholder pitch, and the screen was up there, and I got up there, and I started reading the slides like this. And right after the thing, John Doerr, who was on the board, hauled me aside and he said, "We're sending you to New York. We have a speaking coach. We're going to send you to," right? I was terrible, but you just got to practice and get better at it. So there's just, I don't know. I don't even remember your question anymore.
That's all right. I'm going to weave a few things together here. Curriki, as far as like disrupting and giving the ability for education. And then you talk about the Sun culture that we had for developing talent. In this industry, we're having a challenge. You heard in my opening that attracting young talent, whether it's through the community colleges, through universities, et cetera, they're looking up in the software stack, and we're having a hard time finding folks in
Exactly.
this.
My two sons are in computer science, and they don't even realize IT ops and IT architecture is like, honestly, I went to college and didn't realize you could get an engineering degree. I didn't realize that was, my mom said, be a lawyer or a doctor. And that's all I thought there was. And I think I'm an engineer at heart, although I never got trained as one. And I love the hard sciences. But my boys don't realize what you all do is like a super hypercritical, mission critical, keep the lights on profession. And it's, I don't know, the universities are off trying to do front-end engineers or something. I don't know. But that is a big issue. I'd love to see this group help me put together a community of, let's call it 6 through 12, because K through 5 is probably a little bit early. But I don't think sixth graders are beyond setting up a cluster and understanding how that works and doing failover and understanding containers and lots of basic things that you all live and breathe. Getting a curriculum and getting it on Curriki and promoting it to the high schools, I think that's where you got to get the kids interested in running the school's data center, although that makes every school nervous about, oh, it's going to change your grade. They're going to do that anyhow. But you charge them with making sure it stays secure, because they'll be the smart kids anyhow, and they don't want the dumb kids to change their D to an A anyhow. So I don't know, whatever. But we do need to find a better way to get people involved in this thing, because especially when you look at the security aspects of running this and the cyber warfare that can happen. And I don't mean, just like country to country, but just, internally as well as externally. And obviously I know you all realize that your biggest threats are probably inside jobs. And how do you protect from the inside jobs as well as the competitive espionage? So, those are all going to become even more critical as we go forward. The other space is entertainment, which, I had a long argument with my son about, do you really want to become a golfer? I said, you have so much talent, so much capability. And those of you who don't think he's a talented kid, go to my Twitter feed. I just tweeted a little 20-minute interview that James Brown, the sportscaster, did of my son. And I think it's worth seeing, unless you just don't want to have anything more to do with McNealy genetics. But I argued with him to not go do pro golf. I said, you could go change the world. Entertainers reduce productivity, because we all sit back and do absolutely nothing, and that's opportunity cost. Now, I understand the argument that you need some break, because you can't do failover and cybersecurity 90 hours a week. You go nuts. But, the entertainers, I said, if you don't become the number one golfer, somebody else will. And there'll be no change. It doesn't really change the world. The fact that you were a little better than the current one, you could have been a little better than the current one, it will not change the golf industry or entertainment. He thought through it all and said, yeah, but I think I can do good if I can gain some celebrity and some financial, and so that's his. And I said, sure, that's good, go for it. And I'm supportive of anything he wants to go do, because he's got a good head on his shoulders. But what you guys and gals are doing is just so fundamentally key that I would love to help support you all in getting people to want to go do this stuff. And that's why I think we need people working on physics and all of the basic fundamentals. I was at an event with the IBM CEO, and they brought in the, what's the new kind of computing?
Quantum?
Quantum. They brought in a quantum computer that they had that was just hanging there, and I looked at it, and it looked as strange to me as the first time somebody pulled the top off of an Onyx computer, and I'm going, what are those little black things? Oh, those are chips. Oh, really? Frito-Lay or what, But, the world is changing so much that, that's where we need, and it will change the world for better. Everybody knows that getting a phone is the fastest way out of poverty for people in developing nations. You all are driving the infrastructure that makes that happen. It isn't government taking money from somebody and giving it to somebody else that takes people out of poverty. That actually is a slippery slope the wrong way. See Venezuela. But what you all are doing is a rocket boost out of poverty, and the private sector and the technology that you do. I don't know if you hear this enough. Maybe you know it in your hearts, but you ought to have an old geezer who's been around and seen it a lot. You should know that what you're doing is absolutely critical and so important. The other thing I always used to tell my son employees, I said, you have been cursed with talent, expertise, and opportunity to make a difference. And therefore, you're going to have to work more hours than the normal human, because it isn't the 80-20 rule. It's 99-1. 99% of the work is coming from about 1% of the people. And I'm sorry, you've been cursed with the fortunate stick, and you sort of have a personal obligation to be productive, work harder than the normal human,
I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'd like to open it up. So think about questions you'd like to ask, and we'll have somebody grab a mic and bring it around to you. So what do you think are the top 3 things that you have learned in your executive career?
Well, the Sun folks will have heard most of these before, and they're sort of buzzwords, but they sort of imply what I think is important. It's have lunch or be lunch, right? I mean, just, what was his name? Andy Grove said, be paranoid. I don't like paranoia. It's like jealousy. It's a very bad emotion. But, running a little scared that, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. It's way better to be the windshield. So that's one thing. Just the rate of change is just super accelerating. And human nature doesn't like change. And when you have management team and they fight change, just understand why. Most humans want to come in, do their job flawlessly, get lots done, and see that they actually were 20%, they processed 20% more work this day than they did the day before. And they feel good about it because they actually do want to contribute to the company. But when you come in and say, all right, stop doing that, you know how to do that, do this, you don't know how to do that, they spend all day tripping, falling, breaking things, screwing things up, and getting yelled at because they're learning something new. That's why they don't like change. And nobody ever explains it that way. People think, oh, they don't like change. They don't like not being perfect. They don't like not breaking records for productivity and all the rest of it. And so it's sort of embarrassing to fail at something that is new to them. And so you need to help them through that and encourage them that change is fun and interesting, and don't get mad at them when they mess up, or you won't get changed. And if you don't get changed, then you're the bug. So that's one thing that I've learned. I already gave one of them away, and that is Bill Joy used to say it, change will happen, or invention will happen, but almost all of it will happen outside your own walls. And I took that to heart, and that's why I always say, what should I be doing that I'm not doing? What do I not know that I should know? That sort of thing. And just that everybody in every part of the business should be doing that at all times, and you'll just be blown away at what you hear. You don't have to take everything that everybody says as real. The third thing that I learned was having people share in the success is a lot more fun than being Zuck or Ellison rich. And so I don't regret doing all the open source stuff. I sort of regret what happened, but I don't regret what we did with Java. I mean, the entire Twitter stack's written on Sun technology, and I just look around the world and I know what goes on in the CIA and the Defense Department and other things with our stuff, and I think we really, really, really did move the ball and change things. And I would rather go to bed at night knowing we did the right thing than the great thing. And so, it just depends on who you are and how you're made up. I was probably, like I said, we were good capitalists. And the S for Sun was for Sun and for share. That was sort of and then we had a cause, and I think a cause is important, but we wanted to eliminate the digital divide while doing no harm to the planet. And that was our cause. I think missions and objectives and goals and strategies are wonderful, but people want to have what I call psychic income. And I think Sun had a lot of psychic income for a lot of people because of what we were doing and the difference that we were making. So those are probably 3 topics that I would say I learned over the years as leader.
Excellent. Excellent. So why don't we open up for a few questions? If you got a question, feel free to raise your hand. I have others I wanted to ask, but I want to give an opportunity here. Henry? Mic right there, Henry.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about what you said about the educational gap, and I just recently joined a startup to go ahead and try to go ahead and change the world. But unfortunately, the kids that we're bringing in, there seems to be a gap between what we were taught earlier on what reality is, how to actually move electrons, if you will, and what they're being taught today, right? Which is higher level interpretive languages, and if you put a computer in front of them, they wouldn't know what it was. I find that a lot of the experience that we've had in the various companies is something that we can share, but I ended up teaching these folks the basics. And it became odd to me whether or not we can do that across companies instead of just constantly doing it locally with your own people and so forth, because we do have all this experience and there is a gap. I don't know if you have an idea about how we can do that without crossing these corporate lines.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt Google wants to share all of its data center expertise with everybody else.
Joe? They do.
I wouldn't guess that their shareholders would vote for that. So, I mean, it's not the man. I mean, the owners want a return on the capital that they risked. So that's just part of the system. And so you can't fight capitalism and private sector and the invisible hand and shareholder governance, all the rest of it. We have to find a way to do that differently, which is why, by the way, I've made Curriki a .org. And everybody said, well, it's growing so fast and it's doing so well, it'd be an unbelievable .com. And it's really hard to raise money for a .org. And we could raise, I'm sure, hundreds of millions of dollars as a .org. But I want it to be, or as a .com, but I want it to be free, and I want to be free of shareholder constraints so that we can keep it free and go where we need to go, not where the venture money wants us to go. So it's a tough question. I'm not sure I have an answer. I have to think about that a little bit more. And I just wish there was another very large successful company that was grabbing the open source parade like we did, because we didn't just lead it. We open sourced risk architecture, we open sourced operating systems, middleware, applications, directory and identity, and all of those other things. We were open sourcing everything. And Java 1 was the largest developer conference in the world when we ran it. And as soon as I mean, the real problem is my boys were 2, 4, 6, and 8. And I wanted to be home to help be with those 4 and raise them. So I got selfish. I don't regret it. And I think those 4 will do really great and wonderful things down the road. But that ultimately led to, within 5 years, getting swallowed up by Oracle. And Oracle does their thing, right? Which maximizes cash flow, which is all part of the system too. But nobody else picked up all right, we're gonna lead the process by which we share. And sharing IP, sharing source code is education. Sharing interfaces and APIs is education. And to tell you how much I believed in all of that, I took huge risks with Sun's shareholder dollars to share. But to tell you how much I believe in the capitalist system, I testified on the Oracle side versus Google around whether the Java APIs and stuff were copyrightable. And I believe in IP, and I believe in IP ownership. So Google's probably a little mad at me for that, but I'm a little mad at Oracle for not opening up Java more. And I think I helped Google by protecting the concept of IP. So the one side's happy with me and I'm not happy with them, and the other side's probably not happy with me, but they should be happy with what I did to help protect copyright.
So I think we've got time for one more question, then I'm going to ask you for a favor.
Oops.
Anyone else have a question?
Here.
Yes. Tell us your name if you could as well.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dhaval, and I work for a startup. My question was about if you can look into your crystal ball, and we talked about the jobs issues, right? That things are changing very fast. So do you think that's a new normal, or it's the same old evolution of technology and double-edged sword? And second question was about how far do you think this boom is going to go? The cycles, you've been through many.
Well, first of all, I was never a predictor, and I would always just take what the really smart people said that other people hadn't figured out yet, and then everybody said, wow, he's visionary, right? I didn't really come up with but the only one that was, you have no privacy, get over it, that just blurted out in a speech. They tried to script me, but so it's the new normal. I'll tell you change has always happened. It is accelerating. There's no question about that. So that's what's new about it, is it's accelerating. The other thing that's new is, how many people do we have on the planet now? 8 billion? When we started Sun in 1982, it was more like 2 or 3 billion. That's staggering to me when I think about it. I mean, I drive through New York and I go, who are all these people? You know,
Curricky targets.
Yeah. So I just think the implications of dislocations are harder to deal with and predict when, one, you have so many more people that are going to get impacted and at such a quick rate. And then the other thing that happens is the stress that drives, because things go viral that happen all the time. So, you know, I think that makes it very, very difficult. And I think a lot of good things that could happen end up happening way slower because somebody thinks that, you know, they can't keep up with it. Maybe that's always been the case, but I just think the scale at which things can happen and be seen everywhere changes a lot.
Excellent. Well, Scott, first off, thank you very much
Thank you.
for this. This has been great.
You can follow me on Twitter. I don't do Facebook just because it's too confusing to me. I had to ask my son put it on Facebook for me. Follow me on Twitter, or my email address is scott.mcnealy@wayin.com, WAYIN.com, if you want to communicate with me directly.
So the favor I have to ask you is, you basically influenced a lot of the people in this room. And we'd like to walk right outside and take a group photo with you. Is that all right?
Do you guys want to do that?
Is that okay?
If you want to, I'll do that. I'll be happy to do that.
Excellent. All right. Everybody follow us.